The Word Speaks presents today. There are things that, if you said them in a group of friends, they'd sound like a conspiracy theory. But what if I told you that, right now, there are already trained priests, sacred artifacts, ready, and even animals set apart, all just waiting for a signal? This isn't fiction, it's real, and the world is barely talking about it. While you scroll through your feed or watch the news, something historic and prophetic is being prepared right under our noses, and the epicenter of it all is Jerusalem. It's not just a city, it's God's clock. And with every step toward the rebuilding of the Third Temple, we get closer to a point of no return. But what comes next? No one is ready for it, because what seems like a spiritual breakthrough may actually be the stage for the greatest deception in human history. Have you ever stopped to think that the fulfillment of prophecy isn't just poetic, it's literal? And that the Antichrist may rise when everything appears most sacred? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover could completely change your view of the future. And, more than that, it might open your eyes to something few are seeing. But that is about to be revealed before the entire world. A lot of people feel like something big is about to happen, but they can't quite explain what. The world is moving too fast, and conflicts are spreading like wildfire. Wars, earthquakes, plagues, it all feels like it came straight out of the Bible. When you look at Jerusalem, your heart beats differently. It's as if time doesn't pass there, it fulfills itself. It's like every headline is another silent warning. The rebuilding of ancient temples, Israel's military technology advancements, the chaos around Iran, everything is connected. Coincidence? Unlikely. Each piece of the end times puzzle is falling into place before our eyes. And the strangest part, very few are paying attention. Imagine someone living in Jerusalem today. Every day they see pilgrims, soldiers, Orthodox Jews, tourists, and passionate believers all mixed together. It's the boiling center of the world. The city breathes prophecy and carries centuries of history on its back. But now, it seems like something greater is about to erupt. This current generation might be the most distracted and yet the most connected in history. With a tap on their phone, they witness the fulfillment of the word right before their eyes. But they don't always recognize what they're seeing. The scriptures speak of signs, but who still reads the Bible seriously today? Who links global events to the Antichrist or the future described in Daniel? If today's global scenario doesn't lead us to reflect on the end, then what will? Never before have so many world leaders mentioned Jerusalem in their speeches. Never have we heard so much about peace and war at the same time. The contrast is glaring, as if we're standing between the last warning and the first thunderclap. And it's exactly in this chaotic atmosphere, soaked in tension and expectation, that many begin turning their eyes toward Israel. Some do it by faith, others by fear, and others out of simple curiosity. But the motivation doesn't matter. What matters is, something is moving. And when we look closer, we find signs that something sacred is being prepared. While the world is distracted by scandals and social media, something silent and profound is happening in Israel. Influential rabbis, religious institutions, and scholars have been mobilizing intensely. The goal? To prepare everything for the return of the ancient temple rituals. And as absurd as that may sound to some, they are far more advanced than most people imagine. We're talking about priestly garments ready, sacred utensils restored, and even David's harp being played again. The Temple Institute in Jerusalem is one of the main organizations behind it, and what they've built seems pulled straight from the pages of the Bible. Everything is crafted according to the measurements and instructions of the Old Testament. Nothing is symbolic, it's literal, practical, and calculated down to the millimeter. There's even priest training underway. Young Israelites from the tribe of Levi are being prepared to serve in what would be the Third Temple. And let me be clear, we're not talking about theater here. They're learning the rituals seriously, based on Mosaic instructions. This is far more than tradition. It's a mechanism already in motion, even if most don't realize it. Now, stop and think, what could motivate so much effort, so much dedication, and so much investment? This isn't just about historical restoration, but prophetic expectation. There's a burning belief that the Messiah will come and they want to be ready. They believe everything must be in place to receive him. But the real question is, who do they believe this Messiah will be? And here lies the tension of the conflict, because many Christians, observing the same signs, understand that before the glorious return of Jesus, the Antichrist will appear. And the third temple, so deeply desired, will become the stage for the greatest deception the world has ever seen. 2 visions, 2 expectations. 1 sacred location. The stage is nearly set, and no one wants to exit. The most intriguing part is that all of this is happening in plain sight, as if it were just another cultural project. But those who study the scriptures know, when Jerusalem begins to move with this kind of zeal, time begins to scream, and maybe, just maybe, all of this has more to do with fear of what's coming than hope in what has already passed. Some people don't even like to touch this subject, but it can't be ignored. The fear of the Antichrist hovers over this generation like a subtle shadow. We're not talking about a horned monster, like many imagine, but a charismatic, persuasive figure, with an appearance of peace and a magnetic speech. A global leader who will seem like the solution, but will be the deception. And where will he want to reign? In Jerusalem, this fear isn't new. Since the early centuries, Bible scholars have tried to identify the signs of the man of perdition. And if there's so much geopolitical confusion today, it's precisely because the stage must be set for him to emerge as the savior. Chaos will be the fuel. And fear, that same fear many try to silence, is what keeps many alert and awake. Many Christians already sense that there's an emotional and spiritual preparation underway to accept someone who will unite religions, solve conflicts, and bring peace to the Middle East. Listen to recent speeches by global leaders. There's always a call for unity, for tolerance, for something that goes beyond religion. But the real question is, at what cost? What will be the price of false peace? This fear is like an inner alarm that goes off when certain boundaries are crossed. For example, when the truth of the Bible starts being relativized, or when evil is called good and good is called evil. These are small compromises that slowly numb collective conscience. And in the end, the Antichrist won't be forced upon the world, he'll be desired, welcomed with applause and hope. And here's a practical warning. The greatest danger doesn't lie in a single man, but in a system of thought. A worldview where God is dispensable, the Bible is symbolic, and the future is shaped without faith. And if you want protection, start with renewing your mind. Study the scriptures, pray, stay vigilant, teach your children. Don't wait for spectacular signs, the signs are already here. Jerusalem will be the center of it all. And many will see the Antichrist as a messenger of God, when in truth, he'll be the greatest imposter in history. Does that sound scary? Yes, but it also awakens, because those who understand this fear, prepare, and those who prepare can identify the exact moment when the abomination of desolation will be set where it should never be. Few expressions in the Bible carry as much weight as this one, the abomination of desolation. Jesus mentioned it in Matthew 24, directly referencing the prophet Daniel. Something profane, impure, placed in the most sacred space inside the temple. And this is no metaphor. We're talking about a literal future event that will wound the spiritual heart of Jerusalem like never before. Imagine for a moment the global impact if, in the midst of the newly rebuilt Third Temple, a world leader demanded worship. The one who once promised peace now reveals his true face, not as a peacemaker, but as a god. That's exactly what many believe will happen. The Antichrist will sit in the temple and place himself as the center of global faith. This will be the final rupture. This abomination won't be just a symbol of spiritual betrayal, it will be a turning point. Many will realize, too late, that what seemed to be a revival of faith was, in fact, the setup for deception. Those who know the Bible will remember the prophecies, and those who mocked them may start to weep. This is the kind of moment that changes the course of history. The curious part is that this profanation will be celebrated by many media outlets. We'll cover it as the great breakthrough of global spirituality, and speeches will praise the end of religion in the name of universal unity. Does it sound exaggerated? Then take a closer look at how nations are being prepared to accept one system, one authority, one truth. What once seemed like dystopia now becomes headline news. And you may be asking yourself, what can I do in the face of this? The answer is simple and direct. Stay alert and rooted in the Word. Don't be swayed by sweet talk or by rebuilt temples. Remember, not all that shines comes from the light. The true temple today is you. And if something needs cleansing and purification, it's your heart before something profane tries to sit there too. Some say everything the Bible predicted has already been fulfilled. But for those who watch the signs, it's hard not to see that much is still to come. The literal futurist interpretation is exactly that, reading prophecies as real promises that are yet to happen in Jerusalem, in the temple, in governments, and even in people's hearts. It's not poetry, it's God's timeline. This view understands that the book of Revelation isn't just a metaphor for the battle between good and evil, it's a prophetic script with specific stages. That's why each event described the rise of the Antichrist, the mark of the beast, the desecrated temple, isn't symbolic but real. And what's most curious, more and more current events align with this reading, like pieces falling into place. Think with me, if it were all allegory, why would there be so much detail? Why would Daniel speak of specific weeks, and John describe cities, nations, names, and measurements? The very existence of Israel today, after nearly 2,000 years in dispersion, should be enough to make any skeptic reconsider their convictions. The future of humanity is directly or indirectly tied to that land and that city, Jerusalem. And here's a practical example. Instead of viewing Revelation as a complicated book, why not study it as a strategic manual? There are great resources like the teachings of Hal Lindsey, Charles Ryrie, and Dwight Pentecost. Books like The Jerusalem Factor, The Final Gamble, and Things to Come help visualize this literal scenario more clearly. It's not about fear, it's about preparation. This way of reading the Bible places the observer of prophecy in a state of alert. Because if there's still much left to happen, then the prophetic clock is still ticking. And once you understand that, every headline hits differently. Every international agreement, every development in Israel, every conflict involving Iran or the UN could be the start of a new chapter. So, when you hear someone mocking those believers who talk about the end of the world, remember, their faith isn't based on wishful thinking, but on signs. Signs that grow clearer with each passing day. And when everything starts to collapse, they won't be caught off guard, because they were already looking up and looking within. And that's when the urgent appeal needs to be made now. There are moments when the subject can't be handled gently, and this is one of them. The stage is set, the characters are stepping in, and the spiritual clock is almost at zero. What more does someone need to wake up? Should we wait for the Antichrist to go live on social media? Wait for Jerusalem to hit the headlines again? The time of, "I'll deal with this later," is over. It's urgent because we're not just talking about religion, we're talking about eternity. And the truth is, most people are too caught up in the now to think about the afterward. But that after is coming. The Bible is not a fairy tale, it's a living book. And when it talks about judgment, seals, trumpets, persecution, and the end, it's for real. It's as if God is shouting, and the world has headphones in. If you're reading or hearing this right now, it's because there's still time. Time to return to the Word. To close the door of your room and talk to God like a child talks to a father who still gives chances. Time to let go of pride and admit that on your own, you won't withstand what's coming. And where does it start? With one step, one simple act of faith, one sincere repentance. This urgency isn't to provoke fear, it's meant to spark movement. To make you look at your life and ask, what if this is real? What if the end has already begun? Maybe you're distant, cold, disbelieving. That's okay, but there's still time. Return to the altar. Read the Bible like someone searching for water in a desert. Pray like someone in the middle of a war, because, in truth, we are. If you can share this with someone you love, sometimes the difference between despair and hope is hearing something that awakens the soul. Be that voice. Be the one who shouts in the midst of distraction, because there's a future at stake. And it's not just yours, it's the future of many. The end is closer than it seems. But it doesn't have to be your end. And it's right here, at this peak moment of alert, that the topic gets even deeper. Because one of the most controversial and prophetic pieces of this whole scenario is already in motion. An animal, a ritual, a millennia-old prophecy about to be fulfilled with terrifying precision. Yes, we're talking about the red heifer. It may sound like something out of an old movie, but it's not fiction. The red heifer is one of the key elements in the biblical prophecy about the purification of the temple in Jerusalem. According to Numbers chapter 19, its ashes were to be used to sanctify priests and sacred objects. Without it, no sacrifice can happen. And here's the explosive detail. In our days, it has already been born. Not just one, several. Bred with care on farms in the United States and in Israel, without blemish, without defect, completely red from head to hoof, exactly as the Bible requires. And most astonishing of all, some of these heifers are already of ritual age. That means, at any moment, they could be sacrificed. What does this mean? That preparations for the temple have reached a new level. The question few are asking is, what could drive so much effort, so much dedication, and so much investment? Because, for Orthodox Jews, this is the literal fulfillment of prophecy. And for those watching the signs, it's a warning that the temple is about to be activated. A step that seems simple, but could trigger a spiritual and geopolitical avalanche. Imagine the global reaction to the announcement. The red heifer has been sacrificed. The temple will be purified. The world will watch in astonishment as Israel celebrates the return of an ancient tradition. But in the spiritual realm, this event may be the spark that leads to the revelation of the Antichrist. It's like lighting the final candle before the prophetic blackout. And if you think that's an exaggeration, know that even international organizations are paying attention to this ritual. The clash between faith, politics, and culture is about to intensify. The Bible speaks of a time when everything will be ready for sacrifice, and it seems that time has arrived. It's another sign among many that point to the end. And once again, everything centers on Jerusalem, because while the red heifer is being raised in silence, the spiritual stage is being built. And anyone with ears to hear will understand. This isn't just another curious chapter in Israel's history. It's living proof that the future described in Scripture is already seeping into the present. And now that all the signs are on the table, the question is, what will you do with all of this? After all this, the inevitable question is, now what? Are you going to keep treating these signs as coincidences, or will you finally start preparing? Because denying reality won't delay the future, it will only leave you unprepared for it. And if the third temple is already being prepared, what are you doing with the temple of your life? Maybe you've never stopped to realize that the Bible is more current than any news outlet. But now that your eyes have been opened, you have a choice: ignore it, or wake up. Will you keep sleeping while the conflict grows in Jerusalem? Or will you dive into the Word and discover your role in this time? Remember the red heifer, the temple, the preparations? None of this is symbolic. It's real, literal, and urgent. So I ask you, what's stopping you from taking action right now? What's stopping you from praying, studying, sharing, taking a stand? If you've come this far, it's because something inside you is already starting to move. Now tell me, what more do you need to start aligning yourself with what God is doing? Write in the comments what impacted you most. I really want to hear from you. And if this video made sense to you, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications, because we're just getting started. The end is closer than it seems. But those who understand the signs live with courage.